Hey guys, it's a little early, 1 minute. If it's Friday, why not? 1 minute early is not going to kill us. So tonight I've got Mr. Thomas Sewid on again, which, man, I love this guy. He is a wealth of information, and he's got a new project he's got going on and he's working on that is pretty darn amazing. It's called the Sasquatch Watch Ranch, and it's here in the Pacific Northwest on our Olympic Peninsula. And let me tell you about the Olympic Peninsula. If you haven't heard, this place is deep, dark, wooded, rainy, wet, mossy, just amazing place. And he is lucky enough to live out there. So he gets around. And let me tell you, there's a lot of people out there doing a lot of Sasquatch research, and Mr. Thomas Sewid has been doing this for years and years. And I am happy to be a friend of his, and he is on the show tonight. Now, he was on Spaced Out Radio with Dave a couple weeks ago, a week and a half ago or so, or 2 weeks ago. But I'm just happy and glad that he's on my show tonight to talk about the Sasquatch Watch Ranch, because I'm telling you what, things are going on out there, and we're going to get into it with him tonight. Okay. So, things have been a little bit chaotic with me and whether or not I'm, doing the show. I've got lots of stories lined up that I'm working on right now. I just want to make sure that I'm giving you guys the full information for the shows that I'm working on. So this weekend, I should have another one popping off here about some secret U.S. weapons. And you're going to want to hear about that. And hopefully tomorrow, Saturday, I'll be coming out later in the day with that. So look out for that, of course, right here on Spaced Out Radio, Element 115, with myself, Lee Strauss. Anyway, so we're going to go ahead and kick off this intro that I have not finished yet, and then we'll get right into it with Thomas Sewid and Sasquatch Watch Ranch. All right, so let's bring Thomas on in. Hey, buddy, how you doing?
Doing good. Thanks for calling me back on.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Anytime you want to come on, bud, especially, when you have this new information and new projects that you're doing and you're finding out new stuff all the time. You have got one of the biggest stores in America for
Yep,
Sasquatch and Bigfoot.
SasquatchLegend.com and Forks. I think we're the largest store and museum, and we're expanding the new museum over the winter right now. So that was one of the things that's happened in the last, I guess, 2, 3 weeks. Just spurred a moment, sitting on the couch here in Forks with my wife Peggy. A friend of hers sent her a message saying, "Hey, look, this guy in Moscow, Idaho, is selling a Bigfoot cast collection. He's built over 16 years, with most of the cast being made by Jeff Meldrum." So I phoned the guy up that night and I said, don't sell it, we'll buy it. And I cleared it with the owners of SasquatchLegend.com, and we all pitched in 50-50. And Peggy and I raced out across Washington State to Moscow, Idaho, and bought the entire collection, 38 casts. We even got a butt print, Yeti prints, all the famous ones, Bossberg, Cripplefoot, Patterson, Titus, or whatever his name is, Meldrum, and the list goes on. So it's going to be phenomenal. We get it all set up, and we're looking at opening the museum June 1st of this year.
Well, I'm going to tell you this right now. That is freaking amazing. If you ever need, a little bit of scratch, let me know. I'd love to donate to the museum for sure. Absolutely. It's a
Thanks.
fantastic place, man. We had a lot of fun there this summer, last summer, I should say, going there and looking at everything. It was freaking cool. It was so, I mean, you get stuff from all over the place, and some of the artwork that you personally do that's there, that's for sale, is amazing. Your work is truly fantastic. It just is. It just is. Um, but you've got a new endeavor, and the Sasquatch Watch Ranch. Can you tell me how this came to be?
It's actually called Squatch Watcher Ranch. Real tongue twister. And we sort of
A little
copied
bit.
that other ranch that has a TV show. And we came up with a name, and then my wife did a logo, and it's a Sasquatch hiding in the bush looking at you. Kind of spooky, and it says underneath the circle, who's watching who. So that's what
Yeah.
Squatch Watcher Ranch is. I can't divulge exactly where they're located other than to say close to Forks and on the Olympic Peninsula along a salmon river. So they have hundreds of acres. They have a main gate that no trespassing, no entry, so no strangers can get in there. And they have, with the family, they're all elderly, and they all have their separate houses, I guess, spaced about 300, 400 yards apart throughout the forest along the riverbank. And they didn't think anything of it. They're used to, living there for decades, generations. Go to bed when it gets dark, wake up when it gets daylight. Some of the noises they hear, they just write it off to whatever. And they didn't connect Sasquatch until some vocalizations, tree knocks, and other things started coming about on the different housing properties. And, they're communicating. And one of the main guys that lives there, one of the brothers, he came to the store and, introduced himself and got to know me. And then all of a sudden he joined my Facebook group, Sasquatch Island, and he was just liking and loving and commenting all of it. And he was scrolling back. I started it in 2014, so he scrolled right back. Took him about a month, but he saw that I'm very knowledgeable and have a lot of Sasquatches and understanding of Sasquatches. So he's kind of, opened up that, maybe you might want to come check out the properties. So one of our investigators, a good friend of mine here in Forks area, he went there by himself walking through the property and came back and filled me in and said, Tom, there's a trail along the river. There's shallow areas for Sasquatch to catch salmon at night. There's a shallow spawning area right on the property. And darn well the Sasquatch is there. But the best part is there's this huge orchard of fruit trees and berries, and they had a vegetable garden, but we would find out they're not tending it. But anyway, I finally went there and walked around with two of the brothers and my wife and one of our team members, and I'm just like, oh, look, tree structure, teepee structure. They're like, what? We drive by that every day. I'm like, yeah, look at it. And they're like, why? And I said, well, it's right at basically your entry into your property, and it's by one of your cabins. And what they're doing is they put a tree structure up, teepee structure, and it is saying, "We acknowledge you guys live here. We live here as well, and this is the sign of, we're here too. You guys," I asked you some key questions like, do you guys shoot clay pigeons? Do you shoot every animal that comes on property that's threatening? And you said no. And if you do hunt, you go up the logging roads. So they feel comfortable because there's, some guys, you hear them shooting in their property, you go visit them and they got shooting range. And that scares the Sasquatch away. They don't want to be around that. And then with your family fishing and only taking one fish, just enough to eat, they're seeing, and then with you growing the fruit, you've supplied them food. And the interesting part was when we walked down that day to the what we call the meadow orchard on the ranch. I looked at it wasn't chain link, but it was like 4-inch square metal mesh all around the fruit trees. And I said, look at this. You could see something that grabbed an 8 by 8 foot panel and just pulled the staple nails out of the post and pulled the screen out so you could drive, basically, you could drive a quad through there or side by side. That's how wide it was, probably 10 feet between the posts. And I said, you see this? I said, there's no apples left on your tree. I said, I've been looking at my neighbor here in Forks, 2 doors down. They still have apples in their tree, and it's the end of January. But your trees were devoid in beginning of November. So a bear would come up and they would rip the fence just enough for them to squeeze in and out. They wouldn't pull it back. So there's a big, huge 8 foot gaping hole. I said, to me, and the staples that were pulled out, and you can see how I said, try bend this thing. And we all tried bending it, and it was super hard. And I said, look how it's bent though. Whatever pulled it was very, very strong. Sasquatch tore open the gate, goes in there, probably takes him a week or two and cleans out all your apples. And I said, has this happened before? And he's like, yeah, we just sort of wrote it off to black bears. I'm like, no, any black bear. That's definitely a Sasquatch. And then as we're walking along the trail, I'm like, because I'm a master tracker from being a grizzly bear hunting guide for over 20 years and hunter all my life. I'm walking along, I'm like, oh, look, there's a foot depression. You can see the toe outlines on the leaves. You can see the heel. And, oh, there's another one over here. It looks like there's two different Sasquatches walking along this trail. And then all of a sudden, I'm like, another tree structure, but that's a lean one where they've pushed all of the trees into that one big tree. And it's just another sign. I don't know what that one would mean. And then I found tree breaks. And as we're walking on this one part of the orchard, it was a road that comes down from the main road. And he said, I had to put that metal fence posts and chain link fence up there because the elk were going up there, cutting from road to road, and they were causing erosion. I didn't want my road to cave down. And he says, but now they're going down over here. And all of a sudden I go, hey, look right here. I said, and there's a big leftover from the logging days, probably about a root ball of spruce tree rotten, but it's got to be, I guess, maybe 15 feet long and about 8 feet high. And I said, look, something walked behind it. And if you look here, and there's a trail going through the bush towards the river trail, I said, this is a jumping zone. So a Sasquatch hides behind that big rotten log, and they just sit there patient like any other hunter. And when the elk do come down, you've created a neck of a funnel now with that fence. The elk are going to be shoulder to shoulder along that road. That Sasquatch just got to jump out, grab, boom, break its neck, break its jaw. And that's when he looked at me. His eyes kind of went wide. He goes, a couple of years ago, we found a dead cow elk right over there by the quad shed in the orchard, and its bottom jaw was broken. I said, was
Ooh.
it opened up? And he goes, no. He goes, it looked like it wasn't bloated or anything. So it was fresh. I had to call wildlife, and they came and, you know, did their sampling and pictures, and they carted it off. I said, well, broken jaws is indicative. You hear it from a lot of the native people I've interviewed when I ask them, how do Sasquatch take down moose or elk? And they say that they'll grab them around the neck and bust their jaw and twist it. So that kind of trauma, that kind of shock to the elk will put it down, if not kill it. You can just imagine his jaw being busted and twisted. So that was really interesting. And so we talked it with my team. And I said, we got to get access there. But because, other a guy who's got a TV productions every now and then, he was there with the Olympic project a while ago.
Oh yeah.
So
Yeah.
I said, we got to get exclusive use, but we're going to include the Olympic project, Shane Corson and company, because up on the hills, if we find huckleberry nests, we got to bring in the Olympic project because they're the experts on that. And besides
Hmm.
that, Shane was here first, and he's a good friend of mine. So I'd like to put a contract together where we have exclusive rights for, investigating there, and no other production company or podcaster or investigator can go in there. So I wrote up a draft contract and really in depth. I've been doing contracts for years, so it covers everything. Can we bring firearms on the property for safety? We wouldn't do any hunting, of course. And, they said yes. Can we fish there? So as we're doing the film production, that's why we called it Squatch Watcher Ranch, and with a logo and T-shirts and everything, because we're going to sell merch at the store. We're going to hopefully get down to negotiating with them that if we do get some conclusive evidence, we can bring people in there and charge them a fee, and then part of the money goes to the family that lives there and revenue generation. And same with the cast. We find any prints, we'll cast it. They get the original, and any reproductions, they get their share structure out of it as well. So they're really receptive to all of the future going down. But the first thing is we're boots on the ground. We have cell phone trail cameras down there. One activated about an hour and 15 minutes ago with a deer. So I'm tied in there 24/7. And we have more cell cameras going in with cell phone capabilities on Sunday, as well as about 20 or 30 additional regular trail cameras. And we have a $1,400 wildlife audio box out there
Yep.
recording. We have it set so it turns on because of the early darkness at 6:30 at night and turns off at 6:30 in the morning, so we don't pick up their vehicles going to and from work or other noise like chainsaws and that. So I've, you know, really good hope that we're definitely going to come up with something on that property because it has everything. It has the high abundant seasonal foods. It has the human produced foods because once I got to know them, I said, um, the one lady, and she's quite elderly. We went to her house and she came out and she was telling us that, oh, last week something 3 times on, so I thought it was my door. So come in. No one came in. So I thought, oh, I guess they went away. Must be one of my family. And then all of a sudden, bang, 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 second time. And she yelled, come in. Nothing. So she went and looked. There's nothing outside, no one outside, no vehicles or anything. And she's got about a 60-yard driveway to the main road and then another 300 yards to the closest family house. So I said that was a Sasquatch. And so I started looking around and right by her woodshed, oh, take a look at this. And there's like a 15, 16-inch footprint right in the soft soils. It was borderline castable, but it was pouring rain. I didn't have any plaster anyway. But I said you could see where it was standing and it's hiding behind the woodshed and it's looking through your kitchen window into your house. So as you're moving around, it's just standing there watching you. And that's why we Indian people, our native language in some tribes refers to the Sasquatch as the watcher because they're always watching you. They'll be hiding behind something, looking in your windows. So I said, put some food out, and, garlic, because there's 3 types of indigenous garlic in Pacific Northwest coastal region. I said, put garlic bulbs out, apples, potatoes, sweet potatoes, berries, and keep the berries in a plastic clear see-through container. So they put some food out for gifting, and it wasn't 3 days later when they phoned me and said, guess what? Something took 3 cloves off the garlic, took all the apples, moved the sweet potatoes and the potatoes and didn't touch them. And I said, oh yeah, well, we know they're there. Let's keep doing it.
That is cool. I mean, the fact that they're having that kind of activity, and maybe they didn't know generationally that it was actually Sasquatch. Maybe they've had some experiences that they just thought it was animals or black bear or this or that, and then you come along, or they have some sort of experience. Well, maybe it's not an animal, maybe, or a bear or deer or something like that, and then they reach out to you, and then you find all this evidence for them. I mean, their eyes probably just went, "Holy cow, what are we dealing with here?" I mean, that's amazing. The fact that, they have that kind of activity there, and like you say, they've got the fruit trees and all the berries and all of that stuff there as well. Um, how receptive are they to you and the Olympic project going on their property? Is it kind of iffy, or is it welcoming?
Very welcoming. I actually connected with the family because they're avid sports fishermen, and I told them that I'm the president of Civic Balance Marine Management, which is the redevelopment of the Harvest of Seal and Sea Lion campaign throughout the entire Pacific Northwest, from the Baja up to the Bering Sea. And right away, you just see them light up like, oh, wow, that's cool. It's all about protecting salmon and steelhead and other fin fish. Absolutely, it's got to be done. So that really helped out. And then just overall, they're very welcoming, just mainly because they're intrigued by the knowledge that I bring about Sasquatch. And then I even threw at them, they have a big camping area for the summertime when their family members come visit with all the kids and dogs and the whole 9 yards, fire pit, big building. And I said, if you want, and when your family's all here in the late spring, early summer, I said, I can come and do the Sasquatch Island stage show that we present on Sasquatch conferences, where my wife will come out with the masks and the native regalia for the potlatch ceremonies that we have. And I'll talk about all my encounters. It might take an hour and a half, but it'd be great entertainment. No, oh, would you do that? I said, oh, absolutely. I said that way everyone gets to know who we are and what we're all about. I said, we're the most unique Sasquatch investigating team on Sasquatch Island, aka North America, because no one can compare to us. I got bring all of this North American Indian coastal culture from my Kwakwaka'wakw tribe, plus being a grizzly bear and other hunting guide for decades and living in the bush for decades up in British Columbia, and being a commercial fisherman for 40 plus years, traveling the entire British Columbia coast, talking to other native people, homesteaders, fishermen, and hearing their reports of Sasquatch since I was a kid. You know, I don't think you can find another investigator that can compare to me. And that's why I'm using it on a positive level, trying to help this family get hopefully conclusive proof of the Sasquatches that are on their property. And, that way they, bottom line is this Sasquatch is an industry. And, you get, a couple 100,000 views per month on your production that you put up on Netflix or Amazon Prime. We're all got the contract. We all get a percentage, and that could help out. And them, they're in their later years. Me, I'm 60. I'm going to be retired here pretty quick. And it'd be nice to have a steady paycheck coming in from Amazon.
Yeah, I agree with that. Amen, brother. So, how much property do they own? Are we talking about, 20
Hundreds,
acres,
hundreds of acres.
hundreds of acres?
Yeah, I got to really be guarded for them
Yes.
for the
Yes.
how the contract's set up. Like I can't say, so people put two and two together and go, oh, that's
Right.
that family. I know where they are. They're on this river. So I
Gotcha.
don't even, yeah, because there's so many idiots out there. They'll just
Yeah.
blaze by the no trespassing signs, and next thing you know, they're going down there, and they're elderly. They're sleeping at late at night. They don't need yahoos down there on their private property.
Yeah, and I agree with that, and I respect that for sure. Absolutely. I wonder how it's going to be for them as more and more people are aware of this location, right? Are we going to get more people? looking into this? Are we going to get, are you going to invite other people out to that area, and how publicized is that going to be? Of course, I imagine that you want to keep it on the down low, very much so, you know, so that those people that own that property are not resentful for anything that happens, as far as the not public knowledge of this space.
Oh yeah, you just look at Skinwalker Ranch. I don't know if they are or not, but I know if I was down wherever that was and it was $25 for a ticket to go walk around and be on a guided tour, I'd pay it. And that's what I forewarned them about. I said, we get conclusive proof. I said it could blow up that if you wanted it to be a good revenue generator. And one of them just said to me, "Well, we all pay taxes." So, you imagine the amount of acreage they have in the hundreds of acres and, what the tax bill is per year, so, revenue generation, it's always a positive as long as you control it, contain it, and don't let it get too out of hand. And,
Yeah.
right now it's just we got to focus on getting the evidence. There's a couple outbuildings that we're going to be staking out when it warms up a bit that, they've given us permission that we can go in there. Number one, clean it up of all the rat droppings
Mhm.
and mice droppings and cobwebs, because they haven't been used for quite some time. Clean it up, do stakeouts at night where, a couple people are sleeping, another person sitting up with we got 40, $50,000 replacement value of night vision equipment. So we light the darkness up into daylight. So it's going to be a prime area to be, and especially when the fruit gets there. And one of the things I put in the contract is, can we, because they're elderly, they said, oh, we don't no longer use the lower meadow garden patch no more. We're too old. And it's got all the sprinklers and everything. So I said, put it in the contract. Would it be all right if we go down there and till the ground and fix up the fencing and plant a bunch of corn? Because what we found on the Olympic Peninsula, the weakness of Sasquatch is corn in the husk. They just can't say no to that. They take it when you use it for gifting, and they leave the husks and they just take off with it. It's candy to them. So I'm planning on putting in probably a couple hundred corn plants and other things as well, tomatoes, different things, bear proof the gates. And then when they do go up to the fence, smile for the birdie because trail camera is going to be popping left, right, and center. And there's electricity in the outbuilding, so we're going to be able to put regular surveillance cameras as well. So they don't have that infrared thing going off. So we'll try all kinds of stuff.
That's good, and that's interesting. Hopefully, gosh, I think my major concern, of course, is that you're not scaring the Sasquatch off by bringing more and more people in to this area. So I know that you have
No,
the utmost respect for them, for the Sasquatch, and also for the people that own the property. Um, so I know in your hands things will work out.
yeah.
Are
Well, at
you?
this stage in the contract, it's only the three members of Sasquatch Island here on the peninsula, as well as Shane Corson from the Olympic Project. And, Shane, if anything, he'll be with one other team member. So 5 people maximum, so basically we have, freedom to go all through that property. Like there's some high hills that we got to walk up to the property lines and everything. And as we know on the Olympic Peninsula, wherever you have that knoll like that, the Sasquatches sleep on top. I always tell people, look for mounts or hills that look like a firm breast. They're
Yeah.
always going to sleep on the nipple. And that's where we got to get. And the only trouble is the only one fit out of us three is Peggy, my wife, and me and Steve. He's a veteran who got blown up a couple times in Desert Storm. And I'm a 60-year-old with a 95-year-old body after 40 plus years being a commercial fisherman. So both of us have bad legs. So it's going to be a chore getting on top of the hills there.
Yeah, yeah. I can concur. Being in construction for the last 32 years, it's done a number on me as well. So I get that completely. So are you planning on partnering with a a film team to do any sort of filming out there, or what is your plan?
So since 2014, when I became an investigator and podcasting and everything, I've learned one thing. The gentleman we were talking about before we went on tonight, he was one of them that left a sour taste in my mouth, as well as numerous others. It's like, oh, I got to get you in front of the TV. I'm an editor of a camera. I'm an editor. I have connections with production companies and networks. It's all fork tongue fart talk. Nothing ever comes to be. So years ago, Peggy and I sat down, and she's a retired systems analyst from Boeing. So we have a big whiteboard around the corner here, 6 foot by 8 foot. So everything's whiteboards, post-it notes, and run your pros and cons. And we did that. And we said, okay, the analyst has done her job, and this is the outcome. We got to start our own production company. So behind me, there's the one monitor. She's got two editing. Peggy spends money like crazy because she works so hard for Boeing and has a good retirement package. I wish I could spend like her, but she's got a production company, software subscriptions for what Netflix and YouTube require. She's taking training courses on editing and other things. Right now, she's doing AI stuff. So,
Yeah.
she used to edit back in Boeing back in the early days. So she's, well versed in that. I'm so lucky that I have a wife that can do all that. So she's in Kent, Washington at our condo over there. And she's editing away, a few hours every day. And so, we got everything. We probably got close to 60,000 plus worth of electronic equipment, cameras, video cameras, GoPros, drone. The list goes on. We got a lot of things and more coming in. Like when I asked her, I said, how much did that little green box cost you with the microphone, the wildlife? Oh, it's over 1,000, she said. Then she let it out, $1,400. I was like,
Yeah.
holy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, those things are
Yeah,
not cheap. The good ones are not cheap.
yeah,
Ones that'll roll, multiple months even, on a battery backup, and they just sit there in a tree somewhere recording all the audio. So,
yeah,
yeah, it's a lot of information to go through. That the editing with that stuff, with all that camera equipment, I can't even fathom, because with the material, with the cameras that I have, it's not doable with one person. It's just not. You almost
yeah.
need a team doing it to sift it
And if you go
through
to
all of it.
Sasquatch Island YouTube channel, you'll see a video called Vancouver Island or Nanaimo Oysters and Sasquatch. I'm on an oyster bed at low tide talking about how Sasquatch comes down and harvests that type of shellfish. But that was Peggy's first editing production. It's pretty damn good. And then
Yeah,
she's done other ones that you can see on Sasquatch Island Facebook, but Sasquatch Island YouTube. I think all the videos are on there, and she's done some pretty good ones. Like she did like a commercial for the Sasquatch Legend store that I manage here in Forks. We have a big TV up on the wall, and when people come in and I see them look at Sasquatch stuff, I know they're not in for Twilight, they're in for Sasquatch. So I'll put my video on, and you'll see them looking up, and they walk around the store and they see the books by Cliff Barrickman, Finding Bigfoot, Russell Accord, Expedition Bigfoot, late Dr. John Bindernagel, and my good
mhm.
friend, and David Paulides, another good friend that I've worked with and everything. And they see write-ups I've written, how, I've worked with these people and investigated with them. They're good friends of mine. I go to conferences with them, and you see people look out of the book room and look at me at the till like, that's him, that's the guy. And they'll come over and they're like, wow, you're all over the place, even on TV. I said, oh yeah. I said, I guess you can call me a Sasquatch celebrity. I'm on Amazon Prime starring in Bigfoot Girl, David Paulides' new movie, American Sasquatch. I have 6 scenes on there. Expedition Bigfoot, Discovery Channel season 6, numerous episodes, and I list everything out, and people are just enthralled. So I got to give them a business card with all my social media contacts, and then you see them emailing me going, "My God, that was a good show," and "I liked what you did on Discovery Channel," and things like that. So that's what it's all about. We're all is what we are. All the people that are right now at the conference circuit, and we're part of that. We're Sasquatch celebrities. It's not ego or fathead. It's just identify who you are and what you are, so that you don't forget you have one responsibility. It's like what's his name in the Gladiator, and I do it all the time. I'll joke around at conferences, and all of a sudden I see the audience is all enthralled and getting into it. I'm like, "Are you entertained?" And that's what it's all about. Entertainment, educate, enthrall, mesmerize. And so that whether you're on a TV or a video or stage or a movie, you reach in and grab the person's heart and soul and show your passion for Sasquatch. Share your experiences. Don't hold back. And don't ever let that ego and fathead get in the way. Where, some of the people that are in our industry really need to understand that they're prima donnas. They need a good upside the head.
That's right. Yes, I know exactly what you mean. I do. So, what is your hope for the ranch? What would be the ultimate eventuality?
Diane Fossey, Jane Goodall interaction with a Sasquatch or a clan. So we have that going on right now, almost in Omaha Indian Reservation with one of the tribe members who's a Sasquatch Island member. A good friend. Last summer, he got within 40 feet of them, and he'll get closer, and hopefully, he'll get a Jane Goodall, Diane Fossey interaction. And I'm actually, it's winter right now. He can't do any investigating. It's too cold there. But I have a bunch of cameras that came in from Amazon that are no batteries, no metal. They're 35 millimeter disposables. He's tried getting close to them, but he said, "You have anything metal, coins, knife, anything electronic, cell phone, camera, they won't come near you. They'll stay 60 yards plus hidden in the forest. But soon as you drop everything," I said, "Well, do like I used to." And I back when it used to get hot. I remember days because I used to always be barefoot, number one, in the bush. For some reason, when I lived in the bush, I went so feral that I would just like, shoes always gushy, wet, getting athlete's feet, trench foot, stink. So I started going barefoot, and then like my wife said 20 years ago when we got together, I had hobbit feet, calloused and everything, and I found that the when I lived out in bush because I watched my native village that was abandoned with totem poles on the ground. During the day, I did a walking narrative tour to all the otters, sailboaters, kayakers that came in, but I'd be walking on there barefoot. And the Sasquatches were in harmony and balance with me. They'd come and feed on the fruit trees that are growing all over the village at night. Bears, you can tell, black bears are just ripping things apart when they're going after plums, apples, cherries. But the Sasquatches, they know better than to go rip branches down. They'll climb the tree and you'll hear them moving in there. And when you'll hear the Sasquatch eating plums, you hear that when they spit the pits out. Whereas a
Ah,
black bear, you hear the crunch, 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 and they swallow it pit and all. And that's why when you look at the bear poops, they're just filled with plum pits in August and early September. And when I was in that village and you'd see the tubular baloney type poops of plum matter and there was no pits, I knew that was from a Sasquatch because they don't eat the
yeah,
pits.
yeah. Well, is your hope to bring selective people into this area with Shane and do an actual documentary with your wife? Is that something that you're looking to do?
I haven't approached Shane with it yet because he's always in his own productions and with other networks and that, and I don't know if he's contracted up or not. But what we're looking at right now is Squatch Watcher Ranch. Will probably be productions here pretty quick once we get a lot of A roll and B roll. And pardon me, I told Peggy, wintertime is kind of, rivers are blowing out. What steelhead are in there? Deep water, salmon spawns over. Pretty much just get the feel of the land, that the Sasquatches see us, smell us, see that we're not a threat, and hopefully pick something up on the cameras and audios. But it's going to be next summer that it's going to be on like Donkey Kong, where we're going to basically, I'm going to be, like I told him, I said, is that right if I like kind of stay in that one building and, me and Steve and, we'll take turns staying up at night so we can hopefully get them with the video, FLIRs, night visions. And, 8 in the morning, 7:30 in the morning, I'll jump in my vehicle and drive to work in Forks. Is that all right? Oh, yeah, yeah, no problem. We're not going to hear you or see you anyway. And so you can't ask for a better spot. It's just prime time. And, just walking the road that there's some properties that we were showing down the road outside of their property, which were properties by other owners. And one of the family sort of is the guardian, looks after all the places, cuts their firewood. They're summer homes basically. But I said, are we allowed to walk but not go on the property? Oh yeah, no, just don't go on the property, but walk the road and everything. And I'm just sitting there going, guys, Peggy just loves wearing the night vision goggles for a Apache helicopter pilot. We got one of those, and she loves wearing that. Basically,
The
what she's
PDS
doing is keeping
13.
our sticks. We'll be using the other ones. But I said the best way to get a Sasquatch is curiosity kills the cat. Break the patterns. So all the people go in before dark. At dark, they're in their houses. Maybe someone goes to or coming from work at night, but because they're all retired, that's not happening on that property. So no one's walking the property at night. So if we're walking back and forth on basically 3/4 miles of their roadways with a branch here and a branch there, Sasquatch is just going to be like, what the hell are you guys doing? And we're going to be sitting there and lighting them up with the video night vision stuff and capturing them. That's the number one goal, is to get some good FLIR and other night vision video and stills to hopefully get an interaction going. What I want to see is, I've seen it in bush. I had it happen before where they get pissed off at you and they'll run at you, shaking trees, busting branches. And back then, I
Yes.
never had night vision. All I had was a spotlight. And, you'd
Yes.
see
Yes.
eye shine and they're behind the bushes shaking and
Mhm.
roaring at you. To capture that on video,
Oh
that's
yeah.
scary. But also, that's AI can't do that.
No, that happened to us out at Ozette Lake when we were coming back in on the logging road after walking the beach from Cape of Lava to towards the Point of the Arches and then back, and we hit the logging road, and that's what was going on. They were in the thicket there before the clear cut, just shaking the heck out of the trees and vocalizing, and holy crap, it was terrifying. It was terrifying. They let you know that you are not wanted in that area.
Yep. Speaking of Lake Ozette, I have to reach out to the macaw because I believe in protocols and permission because I'm a native Indian. So I'll reach out to them on protocol and permission to go to Lake Ozette, to the sockeye spawning channel river. I've killed probably millions of sockeye salmon reds in my life as a commercial fisherman. I've never ever seen them spawning where they're red with green heads. So that's bucket list to me. So I'm here on the peninsula. I want to get permission to go there with my GoPro and get underwater A roll and B roll.
Oh yeah.
But I also want to witness red sockeye with green heads spawning. I've never seen that. And yet I've killed millions of them. And so I'll get permission from them. They'll say, okay, this time of the summer you want to go there, and then we're gonna go camp there. And if the sockeye are spawning, darn well the Sasquatches are going to be active. And we have a 14-foot tinny boat, which Steve has here in Forks area. And then Peggy and I own a fleet of fiberglass sea kayaks. You better come along with us. It's going to be a outing of a lifetime.
I would love that. Absolutely. Anytime that I can get out and hang with you on the peninsula, I'd love to do it. Um, I think your wealth of knowledge and just being able to pass it down to the people that are lucky enough to go out with you for Sasquatch or for hunting or for whatever it is, it's definitely not to be missed for sure.
Oh yeah, and then right now you and I are eyeball to eyeball communicating with each other, and we tend to forget the listen. I do anyway. Tend to forget that there's a huge audience listening to us. That
Right.
I do Sasquatch expeditions. Go to SasquatchIsland.com. Go to my expeditions page. Basically, the you can show up with your vehicle. I'll jump in for 8 hours for $250 for the vehicle load. So there's two or three you, whatever, 250. If you want an all-inclusive where you're going to stay down that hallway down there in the Patty Room 1967 with all the Bob Gimlin autographed merchandise and Patty pictures and other things and tracks, two queen beds, I charge 375 per person all inclusive for 24 hours. So basically, instead of getting a $350 hotel room or $500 Airbnb in Forks because it's a tourist trap, you stay here with me. I cook your three meals. I went picking chanterelle mushrooms all fall, and they're all jarred. So that, if you like mushrooms, I'll make that and salmon that we have in the freezer and jarred. And give you even fry a bannock, give you a cuisine, the native Indian cuisine, and it's good. And then we'll go out investigating day and night. And come in here, dog tired, 3, 4 in the morning, grab some sleep. And if you want
Yep.
1 or 2 days or more, I'm available.
Yeah, that's something not to be missed. The knowledge that you can impart is frankly priceless. So, that's definitely something that is a one of those things that you would do that once in your lifetime. You know what I mean? That you can't get anywhere else for sure.
Oh, I have some of my friends have booked me 3 times so far on expeditions on Vancouver Island.
Yeah, on Vancouver Island.
Oh yeah, I'll go out because I'm Canadian. I'll go up there and do them. I got my cabins up there and boats and everything. Friends of mine have boats that we charter. I even have on my expeditions page $2,500 a day Canadian, where a group of people or one can book my buddy's yacht out of Campbell River, and we've
Okay.
out there. It's Adam Davies and one other guy 5 years ago, and we videotaped 60 minutes 40 seconds the Sasquatch with a flare on a beach harvesting shellfish. So, even got a helicopter package if you can afford it, and the helicopter package, if rich person contracts with us to go do that, I'll put them on a Sasquatch for sure. I know places where Sasquatches, they don't like it when you show up there, especially if you step out of a helicopter and try to spend 4 or 5 days on that beach.
Have you ever seen, I've heard about these upside down trees on Vancouver Island. Have you ever seen those?
My 5 cabins that I had for sea kayaking with the orca whales for quite a few years, we call it Sasquatch Investigation Camp. I'll find driftwood sticks with root nubs on them, or even a splay root shoved into the forest right in front of my cabins, one of my cabins or two of them. And that's the only time I've ever seen them. All the ones I've seen on the internet and on some of the movies. Like that one that was up in Alaska, everyone keeps playing it over and over and over. You can see the grapple mark. You can see the pea gravel that a grader has pushed up in like a little berm that has moss and grasses on it as on the ground there. And we look past and around that upside down root ball, you can see second growth logging slash, which is about 15 to 20 years old. And every other one that you see, I always tell people, like, if you see a Sasquatch filmed or picture taken in the snow, where's the track follow up? Because you're going to go back right away, or you can get so scared, jump in your truck, get out of there, and go back the next day and say, oh, look, here's his tracks. So never believe anything in snow unless there's a track follow-up. When you see these upside down root balls, trees shoved in the ground, pan your camera and show us what's around it. Are you like, I think a lot of
Mhm.
them, you're standing on a logging road looking at that. And I was a logging road swamper builder. I worked the changing and replacing drill steel on a unit making logging roads in Vancouver Island coastal area. And, you know, I used to see the guys digging a hole. Next thing you know, he'd grab a log, root ball or no root ball, shove it in there, fill it in, tap it with his backhoe. And he, the hell you go do that for? I was bored.
Yeah,
Get the, I'm gonna,
and then
yeah,
we also see the big boulders on top of stumps, and they think
stumps that were
that
cut with a chainsaw. So
yes.
what happens is when the hoe chucker's working, they'll do it boredom. Sometimes they'll stack them two or three high. And the other reason is if they're working in that area, grab that boulder and put it on a stump. That way they don't, if they're backing up, they don't back over that boulder and throw a track. You throw a
Yeah.
track, you get sweating, bleeding knuckle, hard work to get that track back on. So boulders put on top of stumps like that are, just for ha ha having fun, or more than likely, I don't want to run that over and throw a track.
Yeah, I've seen that many times in many documentaries. I'm like, "What the heck is going on with that?" And of course, it's always in areas where they've done a bunch of logging.
Yeah,
So, of course, it would seem to me that a backhoe with a thumb has grabbed it and placed it there on purpose. So, either they don't run into it or whatever, just because they're bored, like you say. I've seen a lot of
yeah,
that. Working in
and especially
construction.
now, we're seeing more now because of social media and people.
Yeah,
Oh, look, a Sasquatch did this. Some logger sitting there eating his bologna sandwich on a side hill, laughing away. Did you guys see that Sasquatch show Sunday night? Yeah, that was my bloody stick. I shoved it in there 5 years ago when we were logging that hill. And so if you see them, don't even bother. And if you do find one, like one guy came out and said, this is like 3 miles back, edge in an alpine scrub tree area, then fine. Don't show us one picture. You got a cell phone, take a lot of pictures and videos tape as you do a 360 around that upside down tree in the ground. And the other thing is, Sasquatch have strict laws, very strict laws. They're not allowed to use tools. The only
right.
tools they use is a stick to club things and round stones to throw at animals to dispatch them so they can break their necks and eat them. So having very strict laws and no tool use, how are they going to dig through that hard ground? You go to a forest, like here in the Pacific Northwest, we have a little bit of forest stuff from the trees and rotten organic matter. But underneath that is bedrock. It's either pyroclastic flow like cement from the volcano eruptions, or it's pyroclastic flow from the glaciation period, where all of this sand and clays and boulders compacted down by glaciers coming over and back and forth, who
Mhm.
knows how many times in the last 10 million years. And that stuff, especially here on the Hoh River on the peninsula, it's like concrete. And I can't see any Sasquatch digging through bedrock. Because if you look at some of these supposed things, they got to be in at least 5, 6, 7 feet in the ground so they don't fall over. And there ain't no Sasquatch going to dig no hole. And I don't care what you say, a Sasquatch arm is not 6 feet long.
Yeah, exactly. So we're looking for tree structures, like you say, that kind of like a lean-to, or where they lean things up in one area, or they make um, X's or different things like that. Then things that are
I
above
don't
ground.
I don't hold any credence with the X theory.
Okay.
And it's too natural to happen. And then when you see teepee structures, they're I would avoid them like the plague because they're birthing or menstrual huts for female Sasquatch, so that the
Okay.
male Sasquatch can't be anywhere near that female blood. Because every Indian tribe of Sasquatch Island, North America, it was always taboo to be around female blood. Even to this day, some tribes, the first menstrual cycle of a young lady, they're ostracized and put into a building, and tribe can't be around it. Even when I was a grizzly bear hunting guide, I remember showing up in Campbell River and my girlfriend, basically handed out my uptowner clothes, go to the restaurant and the bar clothes. You can't come in, honey. It's my time of the month. She knew that I couldn't be around her in that time of the month because it could be taboo to me. And being a grizzly bear hunting guide,
Ah,
things go
yes.
sideways, you're dead. You're steaming turd in the forest from a grizzly bear, a cougar, a wolf pack. So even I, in my 30s, 20s, I wouldn't be around female mince blood. So with those teepee structures and lean-tos against trees or rock walls, I won't go in them. Here in the whole river, when we rafted it a year ago, July, almost a year and a half ago, I was pointing, I just got to know Steve then, my buddy now, but I'm like, hey, look, A-frame structure. Oh, look, another one. And so we went ashore, and I'm like, making sure I'm upwind, looking, seeing if there's any bedding area inside. I didn't want to get near that thing, I didn't want
Yeah.
bad mojo. But then I realized, ah, shallow water riffle. So Sasquatch comes here at night, stands ankle deep, and just bends down and picks up the salmon or steelhead or trout going upriver like World War I army guys going up the ladders across the barbed wire through no man's land, because that's when salmon and steelhead move is at nighttime. And when they go across those shallow riffles, they're not going to be plucked out by eagles or ravens, and seagulls will dive down and pull a fish's eye out. They're good at it. And the fish is all flapping around. Now he's got one eye or she, so salmon and steelhead are smart, so is the Sasquatch. But then the Sasquatch has laws, very strict laws. Good fishing here. Filled my belly up in real fast time. Brought fish to my family. Well, tomorrow night I'll come earlier and I'm going to build a teepee structure. So when other Sasquatches are going upstream or downstream or out of the forest and they go, nice shallow riffle, I'm going to fish there tonight. Ah, someone else has got it. There's a teepee structure. So that's the ones I'm finding here. So they're identifying that this riffle is occupied. No other fishermen allowed here.
Gotcha. That's what those mean. Well, Thomas, how can people reach out to you?
Sasquatch Island. Google it. It's a Facebook group, which is the Encyclopedia of Sasquatch Island and Sasquatch. YouTube channel, very interesting. Subscribe to it. And SasquatchIsland.com, my website. And that's got my gallery page of my native Sasquatch art and other art, expeditions page for the expeditions we do, conference page. So if you want to invite us to your conference, or like I tell some people too, they say, oh, I can't afford to come out to Olympic Peninsula, Washington, where you live and work, or Vancouver Island as much as I'd like to, but I really want to learn how to Sasquatch. Pass the hat around, get your friends and fellow enthusiasts to buy my ticket from SeaTac, and I'll fly out to where you are and bring my equipment and teach you how to get that close encounter of the hairy kind with a
There you
Sasquatch.
go. There you go. Well, thank you very much, sir, for coming on in. And I can't wait to hear any updates that you have with the ranch.
Well, February, call me back on for a Friday night.
All right, brother. We will talk to you later. Thank you for coming on to Element 115 Spaced Out Radio.
Thank you very much. Goodbye, all.
All right. We'll see you later, buddy. I'm telling you, that guy is a wealth of information. Holy cow. And such a kind heart he has. Holy smokes. Got to meet him in person, last summer. Just an amazing individual. Just amazing. Anyway, guys, I will be on with Dave Scott later. Okay. So we're talking from like 11 to 12 at night. I will be there hanging out with him. We're going to shoot the shit. That's what we're going to do. We're going to have a good time, kick back, talk about some UFO stuff, some stuff that's coming out in the news. Holy cow, what is this stuff coming up about UFOs being disclosed? Possibly this summer, maybe. What's that about? I don't know. But we're all very interested in that, right? Is it just another farce like we've all heard many, many times before? Well, maybe we'll get into that tonight. Got my own theories. Anyway, y'all have a great weekend, and we'll get to talking with you later. All right. Have a good one. And remember, truth is where you find it.